Hello, everybody. Welcome to Resilience+Rise, the podcast. The podcast where we transform adversities into triumphs and illuminate the extraordinary potential within all of us. I harp on this word extraordinary. Well, I talk to ordinary people, but they have done something extra, and we turn and tell them or call them as extraordinary. I'm your host, Thomas Scaria. I'm a resilience coach, an ultra marathoner, and a firm believer in your next most powerful chapter. This podcast is based on my upcoming book, Resilience+Rise 26.2 Transformative Miles to Unleash Your Marathon of Life Mindset, coming spring 2025. When I was writing about my our guest today, a title which popped up was From Silent Screams to Unstoppable Strength. What do I mean by that? What does it truly mean to rise from the ashes of childhood trauma, compounded loss, unimaginable challenges? Today on Resilience+Rise, I am deeply honored to host Cristina Simmons, a holistic wellness coach, an author, and an extraordinary mother who has redefined the meaning of resilience. Christina's story is not just one of those sugar coated platitudes, but a raw, honest account of navigating the labyrinth of childhood verbal abuse, devastating infant loss, and a complexity of raising children with unique needs. Christina's journey is a testament of human spirit's capacity, not only to endure, but also to transform pain into purpose. So, with this, welcome to the show, Christina, and thank you.
Thank you so much. It's funny when it's your story, but then when you hear it from somebody else's perspective, it means something else. But I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much. I'm honored.
So am I. So am I. So tell me your story.
Um, Condensed version.
I know, yeah, please. It is, yeah, I know that is, but here again, guys, I usually turn it towards the end of the thing, but I will be putting out Christina's links and her how to connect with her. So if you got any questions you need to ask or to reach out, she's on social media, LinkedIn. So sorry, please continue.
So my husband and I were married kind of young, 22 and 23. And when I was 25, we got pregnant, just like every young couple dreams of doing. When I was about 6 months along, the doctor started noticing that there were some problems with the pregnancy. So we found out when I was about 6 months that we carried a very rare gene that made very sick babies. And so our first daughter, I had to stay pregnant, knowing that she was going to pass away for about a month and a half. And then she ended up living for 3 days, which was kind of a blessing and a curse to us because the longer time we had with her, the harder it was to let her go when she passed. Then we soon after that, they didn't discourage us from having children because it was only a 25% chance of an unhealthy baby. We had a 75% chance of having a completely normal, healthy baby. So we tried again. I had a miscarriage. The third time we got pregnant with another girl. She had the same condition. She also passed away. So fast forward a little bit, the year that our second daughter passed away, we ended up adopting twins that were born on Christmas Day. So that was a miracle in itself, just to have them. Whenever we were never on anyone's adoption list, it was kind of through word of mouth, totally unexpected. And then 5 years later, we got pregnant with a son who again had the same rare genetic condition. He also passed away. And then a few months later, we adopted our son that we have now, who was then diagnosed with autism. So that started us on a whole nother journey. because he had severe sensory issues, feeding problems, screaming tantrums. He had severe separation anxiety from me. I mean, that was just, I'd say a lot of the times that I have PTSD from him screaming. It was constant. It was a lot. And I never really processed really the grief from losing our biological children. So all of this started to compound. And you did mention childhood trauma too. I had a father who did his best, but I came into our marriage with a lot of insecurities and not very many coping strategies due to trauma that I had in my childhood. So um, fast forward a little later, I decided that I needed to have more education to be able to further understand my son, so that we could raise him. And I couldn't find that help. And so at the age of 39, I went back to school to be an occupational therapist and gained my master's degree. And I now work, I'm now a pediatric occupational therapist, and I work with children like him every day. But right before I was supposed to start that education journey, I was diagnosed with cancer. So I had a tumor growing from the inside of my femur bone, which resulted into very painful surgeries and excruciating recovery. And it set back my education journey a little bit. So all along the way, there was marriage turmoil as well. I don't know if you want to get into that, but it's just been, yeah, my husband ended up cheating on me, just because I was drowning in fear, anxiety, depression. We stopped communicating. And so he found someone else to communicate with. And that's sometimes what happens in marriages. But we are stronger now than we ever have been. We just celebrated our 26th wedding anniversary. And yeah, very happy together. Love each other now more than we ever have. So, but yeah, it's been a bumpy road, to say the least. So, but that's what brings me here today.
And I talk about resilience. Wow, you're a walking, talking billboard of resilience. There are times wherein I would be in lost words, and this is one of them. Uh, so, you have completed your education. You're now a therapist, and also you're coming up with a book, Eat Your Feelings.
I am, yes. I'm working on that. I'm hoping it's going to come out this year.
Okay, fantastic. But when you are going through this particular journey, I mean, losing one kid is painful. Two is it hurts. Four, and then having a son who you believe that would be everything would work well, being having autism, and to compound it, your body itself striking a blow against your own self. Where did that pivot point come for you, wherein you realized enough is enough? Life is not happening to me, but for me, and I will overcome. What were some of the things, or what, if you would want to say about that? What made you become Christina Simmons, the extraordinary mom, the lady of virtue, etc.?
Um, First of all, my faith, that's been very strong this entire time. And not that I haven't been very angry at God at times, everything that we've been through. But there were several things, I guess. Having a father that nothing you ever did was good enough, it made me an overachiever. So it made me always want to strive for more, compete with myself, be better. I felt like I needed to know everything. I needed to learn more than everybody else knew so that I would sound like I knew what I was talking about, because as a child, I felt like I didn't have a voice. But the real pivoting point, which even surprises me, is when my husband cheated on me. I realized that I was not the partner that he needed. I didn't know how to take care of myself, nonetheless, support him in the grief. And then I started to realize that I was never going to be able to care for my children that I had on earth. If I wasn't taking care of myself, I wasn't taking care of myself. And I started having chronic pain, depression, weight gain. I learned later that I would completely destroy my gut because I was just shoving down all of the trauma with food because that was my coping mechanism. That's why my book's called Eat Your Feelings. um, but that completely destroys your physical health. And I mean, I had injuries. I'm not even sure if maybe that's not where the tumor came from, um, because you can't go through that much compounded trauma and not process it. You can't just
True.
keep shoving it down and shoving it down. I mean, I've often said that if you don't deal with the trauma, it's going to deal with you at some point. So you've got to really sit with it, but just for a little bit, and then move through it and look at what it teaches you. Look at what you need to do in order to overcome it. Look at the things that you could have done on the front end that would have prepared you a little better. That's how I deal with things now. I make sure that my habits and all the daily things that I do prepare me because it's not if, but when life throws another challenge at you. So I'd like to think that all my challenges are over, but they're probably not.
See, I mean, what I could hear over here is that you had all the reasons for you to get into the victim and the martyr mindset, which you were sliding into. Again, the focused mindset about you mentioned your children that got you back to earth. You mentioned about your husband walking away from marriage because he did not find the communication. But during these moments, you also mentioned about your faith. What else did you do, Christina, to make yourself stronger?
I got very into fitness. I learned pretty quickly that lifting very heavy things settled my nervous system. So if I could lift weights, I mean, it was actually interesting because when they found the tumor in my leg, um, I was leg pressing like 250 pounds. Um,
Wow.
yeah. And when I went to the doctor, he said, you need to get off that leg immediately. He was afraid it was going to break from the inside out. And I had been doing box jumps. We ran every day. I mean, I was, I was deadlifting. Um, I almost got, I say that I was sort of addicted to food, but I was really addicted to working out. That was like my escape. It was my therapy at the time, before I found, like other forms of therapy. But that's how I got through the day, how I released all the pain and the fear and the depression. So that was a blow when I couldn't work out anymore, because then it was kind of like I lost my identity again, because I had really found a community and a family at my gym. I loved my trainer. He was more than a trainer at that point. Um, he was a friend and a motivator. And, when I couldn't go to the gym, then I think that may have been a worse depression than before, because, even after losing the babies, like I had my children here, so I could still pour my love and my affection into them. So, but yeah, there's been so many ups and downs for sure.
So, what happened after that? After you got diagnosed with cancer and you knew that you could not go to the gym. So currently, what is your state at this point of time?
Um,
I see
I
that
got very,
on your Instagram. I see you're still doing your deadlifts. You're still doing a lot of things. Yes. So
yeah, I became a certified fitness and nutrition coach, so I do that now as well. But yeah, I got very angry, very very angry, and thought, I haven't I been through enough? Like, I haven't been through enough trials. Like, I need to go through another one, really? Um, so when we first went to the specialist, the first thing he said was that normally when there's a scan that he sees that looks like mine, that it means amputation. And so, of course, that scared us to death, because I thought, I mean, I may only have one leg. But it turned out that they did a bone biopsy, and they sent my cultures to Johns Hopkins, which is like the foremost, they,
cancer.
yeah, for cancer. And they deemed it atypical borderline. So it wasn't what they call chondrosarcoma, but it was still a foreign body inside my leg. It needed to come out. So now I have a plate and 7 screws that go from one side of my bone to the other. It's about a 6-inch incision on my thigh. Um, and it was a long recovery, but I mean, now you see, I do pretty much whatever I want. I have to modify a lot of things. My left leg is not as strong as my right leg. I still have pain. I have nerve damage, but I just feel very fortunate to be able to move my body. And so that's why I post all those videos on Instagram. We really do. We get to move. It's not that we have to work out, but we get to. So I know I have a different perspective because I was faced with losing a leg. Um, but I think that we need to really remember how fortunate we are and how amazing the human body is, how we can heal. So,
So a question which comes up over here, Christina, is that you mentioned about a painful recovery, which means you would have been bedridden. And when you're bedridden, more the reason why when your mind works against you. What did you do to counteract those negative emotions?
I actually started writing this book back then. So that's been almost 10 years ago. Um, but I started, that little voice came into my head. You need to share this story, so that others know that they can go through hard things and overcome them. So I started writing all those things down. So this book has been a long time in the making, for sure. But, back then I still had that little feeling in the back of my mind that, like, our story's not done. Um, so I think that it just wasn't the right time back then, that we needed to go, live more life, which is why I'm coming out with the book now. But um, yeah, you gotta find a way to get it out. I mean, I'm actually going to be taking up painting too. I feel like I need to paint. So my
Mhm.
husband bought me an easel and paints for Christmas, and so I just, life has been life. You know how life is. It's crazy. So, but it's sitting there waiting for me, and I've been feeling for months that I need to paint. That's going to be another outlet for me.
Wonderful. So, what are you apart from this goal of being a painter? You mentioned your nutrition and health coach, and also your therapist. What else are, or what's your current projects based on? What are you doing currently? That if you would want the people to get in touch with you, what's your current environment?
Yeah. Yeah. So, fitness and nutrition coach, it's through the Faster Way. And so that is, we're primarily focused on women in menopause. And because another thing that happened from all the trauma, I went into menopause in my 30s. Um, so I want to do some more research on that, the effects of compounded trauma and early menopause, because I'm seeing a real tie in the space that I'm in now. But yeah, my hormones were really out of whack. which then causes you to gain weight. Your body, her entire body composition changes. The brain fog was terrible. I couldn't remember things. I would have episodes of where I thought I was going crazy. It can make you feel depressed. Um, so that obviously, I love to help other women, just to take their health back and to feel like themselves again. But my real aspiration, obviously, is to be an author and a speaker. So I'll be speaking at Amberley Lago's event in April in Texas. Yeah, so I'm really excited
Fantastic.
about that. Yeah,
Okay.
so
When you meet her, please do convey my regards and love to her.
yes,
She's
of course,
an amazing lady.
she's amazing. I love her.
So over here, one of the question I would ask is that, and take as long as time that you want. When I'm looking at it, uh, I don't want to call it as a playbook, but it is a playbook of life for you. You have literally gone through all the nah, 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 negative aspects of whatever could be there. You've been handling it. Now, when you look back, of course, those would be the elements that you would have written in your book, also what each you're feeling. Is that, but at this point of time, I would ask you not advice, but suggestions for people, or more specifically, ladies who are facing hardships, who are facing challenges, who are facing life is not fair. So, in such a case, what would you suggest that they do from your perception?
I always go to prayer first.
Hmm.
You got to pray about it because sometimes you don't even know what you need or what you want. So, got to get a little clarity on that. But self care is also the first step. You've got to learn how to love yourself, and how to take care of yourself before you can ever think about taking care of your family or helping anybody else for that matter. Um, and community. I mean, you've got to find a community. You've got to find um, women, men, whoever it is that are like minded and that are going to lift you up, that are not going to have that, that negative energy. I try to find people who are positive, and sometimes I really wonder, like, why am I so positive? Why am I so happy? Like, I got plenty of things I could be angry about. But to
Exactly.
me, yeah, to me, it's harder to be angry. I mean, my husband and I, when you've had a lot of loss and a lot of deep loss, he actually lost his sister at the age of 16 when he was 18 years old too. So he came into our marriage with that loss that he had never really processed either, and then to lose our own children. Um, but we just say either laugh or cry, and we choose laugh, um, because that's what's going to bring you out of it. You got to find the positive. You got to find, like Emberly says, the joy in the journey, um, because it's harder to live in the dark, and that's not where I want to be.
Wonderful. In fact, you mentioned a few elements which I have been a strong proponent about is self-care, and this has been one of the common threads with a few of my podcasts where people say that it's always a simple thing where they talk in the airplane, put on your own air mask first before you can go and help somebody else. And for me, it goes back to the element is that if you're not filled with love, how can you take out love and give to somebody else? You cannot serve from an empty vessel, which is your body.
Exactly.
So, and of course, I've been here. I mean, this element of community, reaching out. That's, and especially when I'm on this particular podcast, I'm so proud to say that I say, yes, we all are angels with one wing. It's only when we hold on to another that's when we start learning how to fly higher.
Yeah,
And
that's good. That's amazing.
we do not know our own strength. I mean, when you had got at the age of 22, when you got married, it would have been like stars and bright blue skies all around, and suddenly in the last so many years. But what I've just heard, Christina, is that Despite adversities, you still continue to forge ahead, and that also forge ahead with a smile, or if you say laugh. But there will be moments for you when that emotion does hit you where it hurts the most. Of course, I know you're doing your workout. So, how do you face those? Because it's always said that if emotions come, acknowledge them. But for you, when these elements, when I'm just, even if for me to process these challenges that you have gone through, well, how do you handle when it comes in, especially when you mentioned about the menopause or menopause, that it could be very, very nerve wracking, or is it? What do you do about that?
Um, I think keeping yourself physically healthy um, can take away a lot of that because just the inflammation. And I think that's, I mean, it's coming to light more now, but I don't think people realized um, how much trauma, like, it stays in your body. And I mean, I would have pain like in my shoulders and my hips, a neck pain, chronic like pain in my upper trap area because it's all stored in there. Um, I do a lot of breathing techniques. I make sure, yeah, I do a lot of that. I do box breathing because it really centers me. I've started to do some of the EFT tapping,
Hmm.
which when I first learned about that, I'm like, this can't work. This is silly. But it does. It uh, automatically grounds you. I mean, it's amazing. Um, but yeah, you got to get. I think that's exactly what you need to do. You need to ground yourself somehow. So and everybody's individual on that. So whatever brings you back to your center, um, that's what you need to do. I have done some meditation, but it's real noisy in there sometimes, and it's hard for me to meditate. So the breathing works better for me than the meditation does most of the time.
Actually, yeah, meditation. When I talk about meditation, to whether I'm having a session or something, and I say, okay, let's just be quiet, no mental chat. You're not even a mental chat for 2 minutes. It can be very, very challenging. It can be, but there is one element that I have discovered. I came across more than a few months back something called as savers. It's by Hal Elrod, by this person, and he says talks about savers. So savers is SAVERS. So S stands for silent meditation for 10 minutes, and A is affirmation for 10 minutes, visualization for 10 minutes, exercise, simple exercise for 10 minutes. Uh, R is reading for 10 minutes, and S finally is scribing. It can be a journal, etc.
Yeah,
And
that's
and
great.
he advocates, and for me, what works around is that getting up a little early in the morning when there is a little silence, and just focusing on that. And it doesn't have to be silent; it could be the box breathing that you're doing, but just putting in that into perspective that this is what you need to do. That's what has helped me. But hey, this is not about my being me in the spotlight. You are sorry. Due apologies on that.
No, that's great. Yeah, that's really good. I'll have to write that down for
It is actually there is a movie on it on YouTube. Say was Hal Elrod. So
that.
it's
Oh,
quite a yeah. It's quite an
I'm
interesting
I'm
talk
writing
about
that
that.
down. Very good. I love to learn new things.
So here we are learning. That's what I always say. That so just looking at the time, is there anything else that you would like the audience or the listeners to know about life itself?
I think that people need to realize that they have the power of perseverance. Um,
Okay.
you really can overcome anything that life throws at you. There's really nothing that the human mind um, can't handle. I mean, it's just amazing because I listen to a lot of self development podcasts, and the the science behind the mind not knowing the difference between reality and, you know, visualization. So it's just amazing to me, how we really can heal ourselves from the inside out.
Beautiful. And when you have taken this positive mindset about whatever life now throws at you, you, as you mentioned, laugh it out. But your mind will be saying that be serious about it. This is something which you got to pay more attention. What do you do?
Um, I really sit and I really do sit sometimes because I still deal with anxiety. You know, I lived in fight or flight for the majority of my life. And so and I do have those moments of anxiety and where I start to feel overwhelmed. So I have to really stop and get grounded and then figure out like what was it that triggered me, or if I know the trigger, why did it trigger me? um, to go back in my past a little bit and really dig through that, because still sometimes now, like around the birthdays of my babies that passed away,
Hmm.
um, I think your body remembers, and so sometimes I'll get into, like, I'll be kind of foggy or I'll be a little bit depressed, and I won't really have a reason, and then I look at the date and I realize that it's a few days before or a few days past, you know, the date of a birth or a death date. um, so, you know, I just remember them, and I thank them for the lessons that they taught me, and I thank them for um, them letting me be my mother for a little while. You know, I realize that a lot of women can't even get pregnant. They never experience the, I mean, the beautiful, I mean, it really is the miracle of carrying another life inside of you. So I realize the gravity of how fortunate I am to have experienced pregnancy and childbirth, as well as the gift of adoption. So um, I really wouldn't trade any of that. I wouldn't change it.
Beautiful. Fantastic. So, guys, what we just heard in the last half an hour odd was Christina's path to healing. It was not just a singular way, but multifaceted as her story, whether it was getting herself immersed into education or being physically fit, pursuing a career in occupational therapy, and now into holistic healing. The bottom line, as I could understand, is that dedication of herself into understanding the intricate connection between physical and emotional well being. She gave us a brief glimpse about her memoir, Eat Your Feelings. I know this is going to be a very powerful guide to anyone who's seeking to break free from the shackles of their past. What I realized was this was not just a conversation. For me, it was an invitation to witness the transformative power of vulnerability, the unwavering pursuit of self love. Remember, she mentioned love yourself first, care for yourself first. I'm sure the way Christina's story has inspired me, it will inspire you to embrace your own journey of healing and discover the strength within all of us to rise above any challenge. With this, Christina, I would like to conclude today's session. Thank you so very much for your
Thank you.
space and time. It has been a good one. Thank you.
Thank you.